Hey everyone, and welcome to Cary's Garage. We're here with the Suburban for our first tech talk. Before we get started, if I could just ask you to do me a favor and hit that subscribe button down below with the bell so you can stay updated on all of our new videos. If you've already done it, I really appreciate it, but if you do, leave a comment down below and I'll thank you. So, this tech talk is going to be in reference to older mechanical injected diesels and the importance of fuel additives. So on older diesels with the mechanical injection pump, they're obviously internally surrounded by fuel, lots of little moving parts. And I forget exactly when they changed the formula of diesel and they went to the ultra low sulfur diesel. But when they did that, a lot of the lubrication or lubricity factors of the fuel were removed. And these older diesels really require that. So we're just going to talk about for a couple of minutes the importance of fuel additives. So on my old Suburban and a lot of other vehicles I've had, this is all based upon personal experience and kind of what I've dealt with over the years. I prefer using this Power Service diesel fuel supplement. It's got a cetane booster and a lubricity additive to help with the fuel. One of the things I've noticed on these older diesels, if you just run fuel right out of the gas pump or the diesel pump, is they start a little more difficult. They don't idle as great. The performance isn't as good. The fuel mileage slowly gets lost, and that's because the fuel isn't lubricating the parts correctly. The fuel injectors, they're a poppet style fuel injectors. There's a couple of moving parts in there. Needs the lubrication. So for the performance and all the other aspects of it, you really need to run an additive. There's a lot of different ones out there. The Power Service, like I say, is one I like. Two-stroke oil works really good. Marvel's Mystery Oil. There's another one by Standardine that's really good. There's a lot of different additives out there, so you can do a little bit of research and figure out which one works best for you. But I just know in my experience, the Power Service and sometimes a little bit of two-stroke oil really helps with the performance and how these old engines run. A lot of this is focused more towards what they refer to as an IDI diesel or an indirect injected diesel, which is what this one is. The fuel injector spray into a pre-combustion chamber, which then goes into the cylinders and creates the fire. There is a couple of direct injected diesels, like early 12-valve Cummins, that do still use the mechanical injection pumps. I mean, the first of the 12 valves used the VE, then they went to the P pump, and then the 24 valves had the VP44, which they're direct ejected, but they're still a mechanical pump. Also, the Volkswagen TDIs, those are direct injected, but still use the mechanical injection pump. They are computer controlled, but they're still a mechanical pump. When you start to get to the common rail diesels, they run at a much higher pressure, and they were designed more for the less lubricity of the fuel. So you don't really run into as many problems. But on these older diesels, like, this is basically 80s technology. The fuel was very different back then. And when they changed the formula, you started running into a lot of issues. And I know a lot of shops back in the day that work on diesels that when they started changing the fuel formulas, they started running into a lot of problems. A lot of the injection pumps started leaking really badly, bad running performance, hard starts, just a lot of issues. And actually, I saw many diesels of the era get crushed. They got sent to the junkyard because the parts in these engines, the injection pump, the injectors, they can be fairly expensive to repair. And so some owners really didn't want to deal with that, or there were some other issues involved with it. So I can't stress enough how important it is to use a fuel additive on these old diesels. I even myself kind of experimented years ago. I had an 82 Peugeot turbo diesel that I didn't run any fuel additive for a while, and I did notice a lack of performance, harder starts, not idling as great. And then I started running the fuel additive again, the Power Service, a little bit of two-stroke, and I was really amazed at how different the engine actually ran and felt. If you have an older diesel that hasn't been run for a long time without any sort of fuel additive, damage might have already been done to the injection pump, and by putting the fuel additive in there, it might not do anything. You might notice a little bit of a difference, or it just might be time for a fuel injection rebuild. But I've had a lot of old diesels over the years, between these 6.2, 6.5 turbo diesels, old Volkswagen diesels, Peugeots, had a bunch of those, an old London cab, and I always religiously ran a fuel additive in all of those vehicles because I just knew how much better they would run, and I like to be able to protect the expensive parts. So, it's all up to you. You can run it if you want to. You can run it, don't run it if you don't want to. You know, it's like I say, it's all opinion based, but I just know from my experience, I find it very important to run the fuel additive. So, you know, you can get this stuff at any auto parts store. I'm surprised I even caught that. There's a lot of other places online that you can get stuff. It doesn't really take a huge amount. You know, when I put fuel in the Suburban, I just put a glug of this in there. You really don't have to be super precise with how much you put in the fuel tank. If you're not sure if your diesel is mechanical or not, you can always do some research online or leave a comment down below and I can let you know. But if it's from the 70s, 80s, good portion of the 90s, and even into the early 2000s, depending on the vehicle, it's definitely a mechanical pump, and you really should be running a fuel additive to help with the added lubricity that was taken away from the fuel to make sure to protect all the parts and make it run better. I know some people will also talk about running automatic transmission fluid in the fuel system, which, yes, that will add lubricity and help lubricate all the parts, but ATF has a lot of detergent in it, and I've found over the years that I've tried it before and it would really clean up the fuel system and it would clog fuel filters, and that actually caused its own problems of its own. So, you know, power service, two-stroke oil, a bunch of other stuff online, whatever you fancy, whatever works best for you. I definitely would, go with that. But definitely if you have an old mechanical diesel, you need to run a fuel additive. You will be very, very impressed at how much better it runs, better fuel mileage, and, just save the internal expensive parts because, I don't really like paying huge amounts of money to rebuild stuff that, a few dollars every now and then, throw it in the tank and it'll save it. But thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. If you have any questions, leave it down in the comment below. And again, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit that button and keep up on the videos, everything we post, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.